Welcome to tutorial number 17. In this tutorial I'm just briefly covering the updates in build 214. This version fixes a number of bugs, and you can look at those in the release notes.txt file in the program directory. So what I'm going to show you today is mostly the new features here that have been added in this build. So the main new feature in this release is, you see there's a new bar here that's called a calculated productivity. What we had already in the software is pretty much this productivity slider here, where you can pretty much, as you are, of course, you keep your journal here, as we covered before, free-form journaling, and then of course you have all these dimensions that you can measure, and then of course one of the things that you can measure here, and I'm using that a lot, is during your day you can pretty much assess the productivity. Now, this was the only way to record productivity prior, so this now has been renamed into perceived productivity, because this is what it really is. I mean, you pretty much self-assess what your productivity level is in a given day. So we've gotten some feedback that people say, hey, but what about some productivity calculated on goals? So this is exactly what this new version does. So you see there's a new function in here called calculated productivity, and it's based on daily goals. So let me add 3 goals here, and I call those goal 1, goal 2, and goal 3. And now, as I'm checking these off, you see this changing here into a progress style bar, and you see now I've checked 1 of the 3 goals to be completed, and it says that I'm 33% complete, and this is assessed as red. If I go to 2, you get 6% and getting yellow, and if I complete all of them, I'm green. If I uncheck all those, and I decided to here say pretty much if everything is unchecked, productivity is 0. We were debating for a while to make this gray or red. So if it's 0, it's gray, right? And then as you're making progress here, you can check this off. I've already entered some goals here for the subsequent days, right? So you see here as this is progressing. And one reason I did this, there's also a new report that goes with this. So let's do this report from October 1 to October 5 and say limit dates. So see, now we have a new report here called calculated productivity over time, and as this is loading here, you can see there's a new chart, right? And as expected here, with at 66, which we just entered, there's productivity levels of 100 and so forth, right? So you can map this over time, and again, this pretty much compares to the perceived productivity over time, right? So if you look at the same report for that, this perceived productivity level is pretty much what I'm assessing here with that slider, right? So again, this is a small feature, but we got some requests from users to add this, and I think so this leaves you pretty much the option. You can either self-assess or calculate the productivity, or do what I do, use both. And another feature here that's new that you may have already seen here, as I hover over this, we've added tool tips, right? So this says, for example, it's % of completed daily goals. Here it tells you it's your subjective assessment. And most importantly, as I'm hovering over some of these symbols here, it pretty much gives you a tooltip and a help text here, what those do. Because we also did get feedback where people said, hey, these are, especially these small icons, right, what do they exactly do? So if I look at projects here, if I hover over them, there's no project is selected, nothing will happen. If I do select the project and I hover over here, right, it shows the various things that can be done in the with these little icons here, right? And then lastly, we already covered the mind wander function in the last update. So one thing that is new here is in the mind wander function now we have locations that can also be included, right? So if I remind you again, in the locations function, it's pretty much, you see the locations that are entered here. So if I do a mind wander with only locations checked, I would expect only locations show up, and see here's all these locations showing up. There's only 2 in there because I limited the see here, I did limit the the wonder function to the last 30 days, I believe, right? So if I go back to standard, that shows all the things. Still only 5 locations in there, I guess, right? So again, you see this, right? So it will randomly select from the 5 locations in here, right? And again, the mind wonder function, of course, if you include all your data points, you can quite a lot of things in there. So this concludes the brief update here for the update in build 214. And as always, hope you enjoy the new the features and functions. And please use the feedback function as using the software, right? Help feedback and send us your ideas, and we'll try to implement them as quickly as we can. See you in the next tutorial.